Gary V on Twitter. Grabbed your piece at Skybot Art. What up, everybody? My name's Skybot. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my newest artwork and NFT titled Aurora. But before we do that, I want to take a quick second to thank the man himself, Gary Vaynerchuk, aka Gary V, for buying my 3 NFTs that I had available. So I'm going to take a quick second to do a little story time about that, how that happened, and then we'll get into the artwork. So basically, Gary on Thanksgiving posted a tweet saying, I'm going to be looking at some NFT art today. If you've never sold an NFT, and I'll buy some that I like. So of course, I had never sold one before, and I was like, this is a great opportunity. Might as well throw something out there. Probably nothing will come of it, but hey, why not? Might as well give it a shot. And he's actually done this a few other times, and I submitted my art one other time, but I was a few hours late after he posted it. This time I got in pretty early. And so I sent the tweet. And about maybe 10 minutes later, I'm not quite sure, but soon after, I got a notification that Gary V followed me on Twitter. And of course, I freaked out and told everybody in my family. And I had to double check to make sure it was legit because, of course, I thought it was fake and I couldn't even believe it. But then I see that I have DMs from Gary V. And it basically said, hey, do you have that NFT for sale? And I realized that the one that I sent wasn't actually listed for sale. It was just up on OpenSea. So I quickly was like, yeah, I could post it for sale. And I actually have 2 more. And he was like, okay, I'll buy them. So of course I was freaking out. I was going nuts. My family and I on Thanksgiving, we were all getting ready for dinner and I was just shaking. I was running through my computer and just going crazy. So yeah, basically Gary V saw my art, thought it was cool, and he bought all of the NFTs that I had, which was absolutely insane. I'm so very thankful to Gary. It was really an amazing Thanksgiving day. I was, over the moon, excited and thankful. That was just insane. So Gary, huge shout out to you. Thank you so much. I've been, working hard on this, and I believe in myself, but it's hard to put in 8 to 10 hours a day on a project that really not many or any people see at all. And I run my own business. I'm a real estate photographer. That's what I do on a day-to-day basis. But this art thing is really what I would love to do full time. I would have been happy if anyone purchased my art, let alone Gary Vaynerchuk himself. For that to happen to me, I'm just so mind blown. And it gives me even more flame to just keep grinding and keep working. I was already putting so much effort and really trying to make this my full-time job and put my all into it. But now I want to do that even more so. So you guys should be looking forward to plenty more content. I'm definitely going to be diving more into the NFT space and building out my Skylings collection. This work that you're about to see here is going to be the 4th Skyling, and it's the only one right now that Gary V himself does not own. So pretty cool. And I really hope you guys enjoy this. So let's jump into Photoshop and get working. All right, so we're here in Photoshop, and the first thing we do is take our face and we're going to adjust the scale and proportions to match the Skyling style. So what I love to do is kind of play around with scale and proportion to give it a little bit of an otherworldly or magical feel. So I tend to make the eyes bigger and farther apart, and the nose maybe a little bit smaller or in a little bit of a different spot, and make the mouth a little bit bigger, and kind of just play with the face until I think it looks cool. So here you'll see me using my original Skyling, the Wolf Woman, as the base, and adjusting this one so that it looks similar to that, but also unique at the same time. And you'll also see me working on the left side and then taking that left side and mirroring it for the right, because it'd be really difficult to modify and warp and adjust sizing of all the facial features and then recreate that on the opposing side in the exact way. So I'll just flip the left side, and that makes my life a lot easier. We're starting in the background now, and I started with an image of the Northern Lights, also known as the Aurora Borealis. So that's going to be one of the main highlights of this image and the main light source. So I chose a really cool image of that, and that's going to be our furthest back layer. And then in front of that, you can see I took these images of trees. Even more in front of that, I took an image of a snowy plain with an igloo on top of it. So I'm selecting out all these layers and kind of laying them in an order so that they recede into the distance. And you'll see further along in the video that I'm actually going to blur these out at different levels of blur so that they really feel more and more distant as you go farther back. So the final layer that's going to be added right now is going to be this mountain layer. And I really like this image because it has a nice amount of fog in there. And I'm actually going to go ahead and add a little bit more of my own fog to kind of give each layer a little bit more separation. And then after we're done with that, I'm going to be blurring each layer at a different amount. And I decided I want to add a little bit of life too. So I got a picture of an Alaskan Malamute or some sort of husky, and I'm putting him in there, give a little bit of life. And you may have also seen that I was adjusting the colors of all these images so they fit together. That's something you kind of have to do to give it a more cohesive look, is make sure everything in the image really has a similar tone so that it really feels like one image and not just a bunch of images and assets thrown together. So as you can see here, I'm adding some tattoos on the face, and these tattoos are inspired by the Inuit people of northern Alaska and Canada. This piece is not historically or culturally accurate, and it's not meant to be. I just drew inspiration from the Inuit people, but this character lives in its own universe, and I just wanted to make it clear that it's in no way attempting to be historically accurate at all. So one thing that I knew I wanted to do from the beginning is to match the eye color of this character with the aurora. I kind of wanted to give the impression that maybe they have some sort of power or connection with the aurora, or it means something to these people. So I thought that was a cool little thing to add. So of course a character that's living in sub-zero climates needs some sort of clothing, so I decided to add this fur hood, and you'll see me develop that more later. But for now, I needed to kind of blend in the hair because the face looked a little blank around the edges. So I'm using some hair elements and creating a good shape for them so that they kind of frame the face in a nice way. And in addition to that, I needed to add a little bit of an outer portion of the hood because it looked just a little weird. It almost looked like an afro or something. So I decided I wanted to add an animal to this piece, and I kind of pictured this Arctic fox as the spirit animal of this character. So it's a bit reminiscent of my original Skyling, which is the wolf woman. So I drew a little bit of inspiration from that, but for this one I decided to use an Arctic fox, and I'm going to be placing it on the shoulder of this character, which is a little bit different, but you know, it's kind of an homage to the original wolf woman Skyling. And I was also playing around with the idea of putting the tail of the animal around the shoulder, but I really wasn't liking how it was looking, so I just decided to ditch that idea. But everything was looking a bit too white and plain, so I decided I wanted to bring some color into the clothing. So I took this fabric, I thought it kind of fit the vibe I was going for. So I took that and I adjusted the colors to my liking, put them into place, and we'll shade everything after. And here you'll also see me play around with the idea of having the aurora in the eyes, but it just looked a bit weird, so I took it out. So I also started to feel like the sky was a little bit plain, so I brought in some elements of some stars and a comet, and I put those up there, and I really felt like that brought the sky together. And another thing that was looking plain to me was around the neck in the middle of the character. It just looked like a little bit of a blank spot. So I threw in a nice necklace with an arrowhead on it. So at this point, the character is basically done at the core level, but it's time to do the shading and lighting, which really is what brings everything together. So as you can see, I'm darkening everything to kind of match the night scene and adding some shadows and highlights to really make everything look three-dimensional and cohesive. And all of this is kind of just by eye. I'm not exactly trying to make it perfectly true to life because the lighting might not look as flattering if I did it that way, but I do tend to observe light in my day-to-day life to see really how it behaves around 3D objects, and that's kind of how I do the basis of it. But then I also bring in some light and remove some light in certain areas. Like as you can see, I brought a bunch more light into the face because obviously that's the focus of the piece, and I didn't want that to be too dark. But basically, I'm just darkening the spots where the light wouldn't be hitting as much. So in this piece, the light is kind of overhead with the green light and to the right with the yellow light. So the first thing I did was add green hue around the character and some green rim light, and it's pretty intense at first, but I tone it down a little bit later. Just a bit easier to see what I'm doing when I put it on a little bit heavy and adjust it. But that's just about it for this piece. I have to finish up the lighting and that's it, so I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of the time lapse, and then I'll reveal to you the final piece. Alright guys, thank you again for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. I basically worked 12 hours straight yesterday. The day after Thanksgiving to get this one out. I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. I have a bunch of new ideas. I don't know if you can see the post-it note behind me, but there's about 5 new ideas for this collection ready to go. And I'm going to be working Monday through Sunday to make this thing happen and to put as much effort into this project as I can and make Gary proud. So thanks again, Gary V. Thank you to everybody who's new to the channel and who's followed me recently. It's incredible, all the support I got on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you so much to everybody. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.